thank you for your welcome. And I'm looking around the room and I'm suggesting that all of you just for a moment look at the back wall there. What it says is you, and you, and you, and you, and you, all of you are the light of the world. And I think one of the points of this ministry for maturing adults is to be light, to bring light to others. You know, there's an expression, charismatic. Charism from the Greek, gift. And I think we like to think we're charismatics. We have a particular gift, which is true. We are charismatics. But I think that quote there, "You are the light of the world," reminds me that we are not just charismatics, but a word I've coined, I think, not unique necessarily to me, is we are prismatics. We are prismatics. And what is a prism? A prism is a triangularly shaped piece of clear glass, right, through which light passes and comes out as a rainbow, otherwise in science known as a spectrum. I still remember the 180-degree rainbow I saw in Ireland after a rainstorm. I'd never seen 180 degrees from one to the other. Bright, beautiful, dark sky behind. Each of you is a prismatic. Each of you has a different prism than the other person, through which God's light passes and is refracted, which means bent. Ain't fun sometimes to have that light pass through us. It's different than reflection where it goes boom, 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 boom. Kind of smoother. Refraction is and that, I think, is what aging does. It makes us, even makes our prisms more unique, through which our light passes and is seen by others. And every one of your spectra or rainbows is similar and yet unique. What each of you brings to your situations, the work you do, the people with whom you have friendships, associations with, each of you brings something very unique. But when you think about it, we're all unique. So someone once said to me, "Don't let your uniqueness go to your head." We're all unique. And I think part of the point of this program is for each of you to refract life, through your life lived, your experience, as Mary Rose says, the wisdom of lived experience, having that come out and having that rainbow appear to someone and they go, "Oh, wow, I never saw that before. I never thought of that before. I've never been seen by someone else the way you see me." And we know as we get older, we're sort of pushed to the side a bit, right? It's like, hello? I get a lot of attention, not because of myself, but when I walk into my dog in the morning, my dog gets all the attention. "Hi, this is Rosie." "Oh, hi, Rosie." Then I see them again the next day, and I've given them my name. I've introduced myself. Next time it's, "Hi, Rosie." I say, and they look at me, and your name is? Bob. "Oh, hi, Bob." "Oh, hi, Rosie." Okay. But little by little, they get to see me. I joke around with people. I take them seriously. So the neighbors on the street, the kids from the high school walking to school, I talk with them if I can get them to lift their earbuds up or their phone. One guy says, "Oh, the other, I didn't hear you, sir. I had my earphones." I said, "I just said good morning." He said, "Oh, good morning." This is the kind of light we can bring into the world. When we're busy in our lives, chugging along like Canadian National Railroad, we don't have time to do this. We don't have time to just be. And I think the point is, we've got to be and bring the best that we are, the person, the unique individual that each of us is, to the world. And in those specific moments with a particular group of people or one person, we bring that to them. And in turn, they experience themselves anew. Not as something to be discarded or disregarded, but as something very new. So our day today is going to be to encourage your ongoing growth and formation as an individual, that your own spiritual life will continue to emerge. And quite frankly, folks, it ain't always fun. It ain't always fun to grow. It's not fun to change. But the fruits of it are extraordinary. But we have to be willing to bear with the difficulties that happen, the moments that we didn't think we could get through it, to build, as Mary Rose says, the resilience, to face the fears, and to move into life at a greater depth, and to grow ourselves to become even more in the image and likeness of God, which is what we are. You know, we have divine DNA in us. We are connected to one another. We are connected to God and God to us. You know, and sometimes we get caught up with, I have to prove myself, but I think what Richard Rohr, the Franciscan from Albuquerque, says, his Center for Action and Contemplation, he says, Jesus didn't come to change God's mind about us. Christ came to change our minds about God. That God is loving. I grew up terrified at times of sinning. It's taken me 73 years. And I'm still working on it. It's not over. 73 years to get to a point where I could finally relax and feel somehow, not just feel, but think and in all aspects, body, mind, heart, and spirit, feel God's presence. And it's not over. No, I'm not perfect. My wife says, she'll say, oh, that's perfect. And I'll say, Pamela, it's not perfect. It's good enough. So now she starts using good enough on occasion. She still says perfect. You're perfect. I said, well, I can't argue with that. Well, I could actually, and she knows it. But what I want to do is, my hope is, if you look at the page here, we're talking about the fruits of aging. They're underappreciated. I'm hoping that today, this is the sort of the thesis of our time together, the hope. They're underappreciated and undervalued, and I'm hoping by the end of our day together today, you will be able to leave here with an enhanced sense of the beauty and the value of your own aging, no matter what particular status you're going through. And I'll give you a sense of my own process. You know, people say, hey, you don't look your age. I said, well, how old? I was driving here, my Uber driver drove me here, and I said, well, how old do you think I am? And he goes, oh, mid-50s? I said, deception. I'm 73. 73, first year baby boomer. I said, and if he only knew the truth, I mean, it looks good on paper, but underneath, you know, I'll give you a sense of my own history later on, and some of you will be able to empathize and can be compassionate with me around that. That it looks good, but boy, there's a lot of, you know, I've got some used parts inside now, and some parts that aren't there anymore, and more to come. But my hope is that you will appreciate age more and the fruitfulness of it, and that you won't waste the gifts of your aging, that you will do things and be things, not just do, but be the things you are in whatever context you find yourself, with family, with friends, in your ministries, that you bring that to the world in a way that will really bring life to the world and light to the world. So I'm hoping to frame a vision of spirituality today that will encourage you and enhance your own spiritual growth. And I say to people, if I'm a psychologist, I do a lot of one-on-one, I've done group work, I do couples work, I've done family work. You know, we work together, and I can't force anyone to do anything or change anything. But take in things and find what's useful and allow that to gestate and grow inside you. If you walk out of here with only one thing, one word that rang your bell, and this bell is kind of dense at times, but you know, you walk out of here and you just chew on that. You know, kind of like a ruminant, kind of like a simply divine bovine, a cow. What they do is they chew it over and over again to digest it. So it's not about how much you take in, it's how well you chew what you've taken in. So I want to encourage you to be very attentive to the little thing, the one little thing maybe that you walk out of here with. And it's really consistent with the whole notion of Lectio Divina for me, which is on the bottom of page 1. In the Lectio Divina, the old prayer practice was read, meditate, pray, contemplate. But Thomas Keating reframed it a little bit for me when he used these words. He said, the first step is listening. So you will be listening to me, but not just me. You'll be listening to your own heart and your own mind as our day goes on. And my words only are useful if they somehow find a resonance in you, because we're brothers and sisters, human beings. You know? We're all in the same boat. Nobody's not in the same boat. All of us are the same boat. So first listen, but then here's what happens a lot. Have you ever had the experience where you're talking with somebody and they say, oh yeah, and they're off on a tangent. They didn't even really listen to what you said. They're ready to put their words in. I think it's important that we listen to one another, and then what was she trying to say to me? What did I hear? That's the second step. So when you are working with people, listen to them, but don't have your advice to give or all of that. You know, we tend to want to be very quick to give something. Listen. Some of the best work I've done as a psychologist and therapist is just to listen when I didn't know what I had to give. And I felt like I had nothing to give. And there are going to be moments when you're sitting with someone who's got Alzheimer's, or who's in palliative care, or who's scared to death that his or her spouse is going to die, or whatever. And all you can be is there listening and hearing and reacting and responding. That's the third step. Notice your reactions to what today is said. I don't agree with him on that. Or, God, that really... As this music was playing, I started welling up with tears. That was my reaction. And I'm thinking, why? And I thought, it's because I feel so damn lucky to be here with all of you. Because, you know, as a speaker, people think, you know, you give something. Well, oftentimes you get more than you've given. And you go, holy smoke, that's why this kind of ministry is so powerful. It's not just what you give to the people, it's what they give back to you. And that's my hope, is that awareness deepens. And then when you're sitting there with someone, let's say, who's perhaps going to die within the week, you just rest. The final piece is just resting with them. That's the contemplative state. Being present to the other individual. Present. Not absent. Present. And that's so important. So my hope is consistent with the program, from having dialogue with Sally and with Mary Rose. You know, the hopes and goals that I envision are that your own formation, first and foremost, will continue here. A new piece of growth that you didn't even know was possible or there. You're going to walk out here and go, God, I never realized that. And you'll take it back and make it a gift to the community. You'll bring it back to the community as light shining before others. hopefully you can apply and share what you learn here and be able to take it back. And that you become more aware of what challenges you face in working in this ministry. What challenges, and how those challenges will grow you. And as a psychologist, I remember my first year becoming a psychotherapist. I thought, I've got to know everything, I've got to do everything and make it better, and I've got to love everybody. And what I discovered is my fantasies of omnipotence, omniscience, and total benevolence got shattered by my first patient, who was a self-mutilator over the years because of all the wounds she had suffered. She was all sliced up. We worked together for 8 or 9 years. And I discovered I wasn't omnipotent. I was omniscient. I wasn't omniscient. I just sat there at times going, I don't know what the heck to do. I really don't know what to do or say. I feel powerless and I feel stupid. And then some days I think, and she's making me feel bad about myself because I can't help her, so I start not to like her. You know? That's the not totally benevolent. You've got to be able to accept those 3 realities about yourself in this ministry. Then you can relax. Then you will have something to offer. Because you're accepting the truth of your own human reality. And in turn are able to accept theirs more fully. It takes time. Hopefully this will deepen your sense of, I want to deepen my spirituality, and I want to provide it as a gift. I want to serve. And in Cardinal Collins' word, stewardship. I want to bring this out there and steward. And so hopefully you'll make a deeper connection to your own role as a steward. I happen to like wine stewards. I love wine. You go to a nice restaurant, it says, what would you like? I said, well, I'm passing on the $500 bottle, but do you have a nice $10 Sauvignon Blanc? But there's something wonderful about being a steward when you can present something. But I'd like to do this, and who's gonna help me with the microphone here she is. I want to just get an idea from a few people, maybe 3 or 4 people, why you're here. I wanted to hear from you. You're going to hear from me. But I want to hear just a few, why, thinking about what we've just considered. I think is it on? It's on. She will allow, so everybody can hear you, because that's important to be heard. Does someone want to say why you're here? You've thought about this? Why are you giving up your Saturday like this? Right here. Yeah, if you stand up, that'd be great. And speak into the mic.
Yeah, I don't mind. I hope I'm not going to go over. But anyway, I'm here. I left the church for 15 years at 60. I was more Catholic than the Pope.
Which Pope?
John the 23rd. Anyway, and I was very active in the church back in the day, very active, and had 5 children and the whole shingle. Anyway, so I went on a search myself, seeking the Lord, never leaving Christ, and deepening my faith deeply, and changing it profoundly, and making my faith my own. And the one thing that I missed was the Eucharist, Eucharistic sharing with people. So I went to Guelph, did an 8-day retreat, and it was really beautiful. Then I knew how much I would be accepted. I went back to the church, and I'm happy to say there's no dissonance. I was able to love just where it is. Anyway, I'm glad to be back at Eucharist, and here I met Mary. We did a reading group, but I really want to now be engaged in the church and do whatever I can do to bring faith to all people along, or whatever is needed. That's it. And Richard Rohr, I love.
Oh.
I've been in a cyber church for 15 years, so learning a lot of things.
That's right. And your name? Did we get your name? First, Betty? Thank you, Betty.
I'm Maria Lucia Serrano, otherwise known as Sister Malone, or Sister of Mercy. This is my first, not even a year in the diocese. I started ministry at St. Gabriel's, and when I started ministry, there were a lot of people that came to me asking some things that I thought we need to have a ministry for with mature adults. That's a thriving youth ministry, but the ones that are not being, the needs that are not being met necessarily are the ones who are maturing, those who are retired or retiring. And so I came today just to get some input so that we have a team that will be doing the ministry with me in our parish, starting this fall.
Lovely.
Okay.
Let me just pick up on a word you used there, which is a word a lot of people cringe at. Retirement. Does that mean consigned to the elephant graveyard? What does that mean? You know, what's interesting to me, I'm a Francophiliac. I love French. I've been to France many times, and I love speaking French. And I speak it fairly decently, but if the word for retirement in French is, you say, je suis en retraite. Je suis en retraite. I'm retired. But it also means, like a second, another equivalent definition, I'm on retreat. So we're missing that though. Retirement is like, I'm useless now. I'm not who as one of my colleagues says, who am I now that I'm no longer who I was? And we get scared when that happens, right? Who am I now that I'm no longer who I was? But who you was ain't necessarily who you really are. And that's one thing aging allows, is you to become more truly your true self. We wear a lot of masks. In my group work, I used to say to people, we're going to get another one or two to say. In group work, I used to say to people, you're going to start working with me in group, and you're going to approach it as if it were a masquerade ball. You're going to come in with your mask on, you're going to show up and present your best face, your best character. A big masquerade. I said, my hope is that by the time you finish working in this group with me and the rest of the group members, you will leave and see that it's really always has the potential to be a come as you are party. So much easier. Come as you are. That's the prismatic gift that you have. Come as you are, not as you think you're supposed to be or were expected to be. Who else has a... Why don't we go there? Let's go here and then there. Okay. We got to get a man in here, I'm looking at the predominance of women here. What about us men? Let's face facts, guys.
My name is Russ Bruce. I'm going through times in my aging that are truly down times as far as my faith is concerned. And so I come to things like this, which I believe helps me to pull it back to where I am. And what happened today in particular already is your story about the prism and the rainbow. And what it brought to my mind was watching a video, America's Funniest Videos. And there was a little story in there, a little girl watching a rainbow. She's about 10 years old. And she phones her best friend to let her know that this rainbow is on her house, so she should look for that gold. And I think it's saying to me, that's part of what I gotta do, thinking about being the light. That when that person is there, then we have to be the light and for those people who need it as much as we do.
Yeah. And there's a treasure trove there.
Yes.
Of gold. And that's what we miss in terms of our opinion about aging. In America as well as in Canada, it's like, aging, age backwards. And there's a program on TV, you may have seen it, Aging Backwards. Like Benjamin Button, right? Aging backwards. No, we're not going to age backwards. So how do we take what we got, and go? Let's go 1 and 1, then you'll be number 5, and that we'll move on from there. Yeah, number 4, number 5.
Just answer your question.
Your name?
Kate.
Kate, thank you.
Kay Lou.
Kaylu.
I'm with Prince of Peace. When I first got the email about this workshop, what interests me was the fact that we have a seniors gathering every third Tuesday at our parish, and I wanted to come and hear what more we could do to make our seniors group more helping share our gifts with the seniors, right? And how we can make it grow more.
Good. And the work must go on. Okay. Maybe we can do a 6. Is there another man who wants to say something? So we get 4-2 anyway. Okay, but him and then you. Her and then you. Okay.
Hello, my name is Melina, and when I received the invitation, I asked Pastor would you take me, and we decided to come. But at the age of 82, I said to myself, I've been there and done that. Why not they ask me to do more, and I cannot do it anymore. However, it would be interesting just to be with the body of Christ, to be with the people who do volunteer work. And when the doctor spoke about the rainbow, and the rainbow fall in the house, I understand which one is my next work to be done a little bit better, and that is in the house. With taking better care of my 91 years old husband, which, is a full job in itself. And so I'm looking back over the ministry in the hospital, which I still do, 28 years at the Cardinal General Hospital, with the teaching the Rosary in the school for 18 years. With doing work in the nursing home for 5 years, but now it's time to start a different kind of ministering, and I think it will be the one I need the most, and this is at home.
Yes.
Thank you.
It all begins at home. It all begins at home. Yes.
My name is Cam. I kind of got voluntold to do this, so I'm not quite sure what I'm saying.
We need a kick in the butt sometimes,
I actually don't know why I'm here. I wanted to serve. I wanted to be connected. My work over the years has been in the world of disability, and I see what happens to people throughout the course of their life when they're getting older. And I see what happens to old people, and I frankly don't like it. So there's a lot that we do to old people that I really find difficult. And I don't think it's a good way to treat people who are getting older. That's the first thing. So if I can be a part of undoing some of that and enabling older people to be recognized for the gifts that they continue to bring to us, that I want to be a part of that. I guess the other thing that, as you were speaking earlier, I was thinking a good death. I think it's a tragedy if we were to die and be afraid or be alone. And my own experience has been of coming to a greater sense of a loving God who actually does care. And if I can be a part of helping people come to a deeper appreciation of that, who may feel alienated and cast aside and rejected and abandoned. I want to be a part of that so people don't die feeling alone and do leave this world feeling that they're moving on and they've got a good place to move on to. So.
Yeah. Thank you. I love your beginning comment. I don't know why I'm here. How many other people feel that way? And part of you, like, why am I here? Oh, And even like, why? Maybe I'll leave early, or, who knows? But I think that's the beginning point. I don't know why. I don't know why. If you think back to the scriptures, one of the things Christ says is, unless you become like a child, you will not enter the kingdom. And what does that mean? What do kids do? Mommy, why is it this? Daddy, why is that rainbow over there? Then why is this? Why? Right? The French word for that is pourquoi, for what? But je me demande, I ask myself, why am I here? That's what I hope each of you is asking yourself. Why am I here? And maybe it's not clear. And that's sometimes the best way to come. People walk into my sessions and say, I don't have anything to talk about. I said, it's fine. Just sit with yourself for a while. What's important will come up. It may take a bit. You may not get to it today even. But it's there. Just take your time. Take your time. Let it emerge. Because it's happening right now. Right now. Henry Nouwen put it well on the bottom of page 2. The spiritual life is not a life before, after, or beyond our everyday existence. Spiritual life is happening every heartbeat, every second, every instant. The potential, the growth is there. The I don't know why I'm here, it's fashioning. When people come to me for therapy, and this is where I try to weave together mental health, aging, and spirituality, so I can see it all works very similarly. Many people come wanting answers. Maybe some of you came saying, oh, we're hoping this Dr. Bob Weber, he's got sufficiently good credentials that he can tell us, what the answer to my question. No. I tell people, and I was sitting with a woman the other day who came in, I said, I think you really wanted me to give you the answer to your question, the answers to all of your questions, to give you the right advice. I said, and I remember what I told you the first session? I said, I'm not good at giving answers. I'm not good at giving you your answer. What I am good at is encouraging you to ask the questions and to refine the questions that you have. And that was the thesis of our book, Carols in Mind, The Spirituality of Age. We showed people how we wrestled with 25 different questions. 5 super questions, 5 sub questions under each area, 25 total. And we tried to just put it out there. Here's our struggles. So I want to encourage you to do the same, to ask yourself the right questions. And we're going to have some questions today, which you'll have a chance to discuss among yourselves and then as a whole group. And we will do that together in a beginning way today. So know the spiritual life can only be real when it is lived in the midst of, and this is the pains and joys of the here and now. It's not just about the light, it's about the shadow too. Rembrandt's works of art were so beautiful because of the contrast of light and dark. Chiaro, scuro, chiaro, light, scuro, shadow. That's how things are really appreciated, not by, if it were all light, if this were all light, we wouldn't see anything. It's the contrasts that enable us to see the differences, the contrasts. So it has to be done in the midst of the pains and joys, and I think, really? Was a great New Yorker cartoon of God at a drawing board with a picture of a man front and side, a picture of a woman front and side. And there's this rather cynical angel who kind of sidles up to God and looks over his shoulder and goes, well, that looks pretty good on paper. You think it's going to work? Folks, it works. Each of you has your own unique answer to why it works for you, being human, that is. And it works. But that takes faith. And the opposite of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is certainty. That's the opposite of faith. Doubt, you're going to have them. We're all got a bit of Thomas in us. Doubt, especially when it comes to matters of aging. Looks good on paper. Why couldn't we have ended at 29? You know, that would have been nice, right? Full health, everything. But the first half of life, top of page 3, is building the container. Richard Rohr does a beautiful job in a book which I reference in the selected readings here called Falling Upward. And it is about the first part of life being building the container and the second part of life filling in the contents. So the first part, we're establishing our careers, we're developing our identities, we're learning how to say no, and hopefully by learning how to say no, learning how to say yes when we really mean it, and not just agree to yes when we really want to say no. And all of those things that it takes time. And then we get to a certain point where we've done it. We've got a family, we've got a career, identity. Now what? Someone alluded to that earlier in the comment. It's like, now what? I spent my life being a human doing. Do I now shift to being a human being? Very different. I discovered in my own life that the things that I used to use to distract myself from being a human being, I kept being a human doing, not just through work, but through certain pleasures I had, like going to used bookstores and smelling the books. I was a biblioholic, folks. My name is Bob, and I'm a biblioholic. We've all got our addictions. We've all done things and still do things to keep us away from what we need to face. Because it's scary. But if we don't do that, the fullness of life is not going to come together. And that's what life moves toward, is an integration. Erik Erikson, one of the great psychologists, psychoanalysts, was at Harvard, said is that the final stage of life is ego integrity versus despair. Ego integrity versus despair. And the fruit of that, the human strength that comes from that, is wisdom. But it's about holding things together. Not either or, both and. Pain and joy. Doubt and faith. Holding them together. And allowing those to be the creative forces in our lives. I think that's what Christ did very well. He held it together. Seeming opposites that had no place being in the same arena. But that's what they are. You know, life and aging, but aging takes us to death. How does that relate to life? Well, it relates to life because things must die in order to be born again. It's the way it happens. So, as we get older, one thing we experience is all that building of that container gets broken up. My wife and I are downsizing right now. I am going out of my mind. I need a good psychologist. Anybody know one? I need to talk with somebody about what it's like to go through a renovation. But spiritual life is also a renovation. It's an internal renovation. And it is very disruptive, creates a lot of dust, it's a mess. And if you want to get somewhere new, you gotta be willing to go there. You have to be willing to live with that. And we're gonna have a wonderful space. And hopefully we'll have a number of good years in that space. But how many years, we don't know. But we want to do it now while we have a little bit of energy and room to do it, rather than in the midst of a crisis. So think about that for people you're working with and yourself. Pay attention to what you need to do now and not put off. Because life is order, and Richard Rohr again, order, then disorder, and then reordering. That's the cycle. Impermanence, change, constant. And each new change, each reordering, opens your eyes to a reality you could not have imagined were there if you didn't go through it. That's what I'm finding my aging is, and I hope I elaborate that during the course of the day. And just a couple weeks ago, the Revelations reading was, the old order has passed away. Behold, I make all things new. New? I'm getting old. What do you mean? The old order has passed away. Now I'll make all things new. I'm an old, well, I won't say it here because it's being recorded, but you know, I'm an old woman. And yeah, but it's new. Not the kind of new we may have thought or hoped for or imagined in our wild, childish fantasies, not childlike, childish fantasies. But in keeping with the theme of stewardship, no one puts new wine into old wine skins. And a good wine is a wine that's been laid down for a while and has matured. And that's this ministry, maturation, dealing with people who are maturing, like a good wine. It has to lie there over a period of years. And then when you open it, oh my God. Yeah, there's a lot of sediment on the bottom. You got to watch you don't pour off into your glass. But man, does it taste good. A good Bordeaux. And one of the best ones I ever had was a Sauterne, Chateau d'Yquem. A friend bought it for me. It's a white, sweet wine. And it comes out of the noble rot. Le pourriture noble in French. That's why the grape becomes what it is, because the rot gets all the sugar to distill. And that's what's happening in all of us. The distillation. The distillation. So we put the new wine into new wineskins. What we have come to become because of our grappling with aging and the changes that have happened. And the new wine can be held. And think of the marriage at Cana, the marriage feast of Cana. The steward, the wine steward, comes up to the guy who's, in charge of everything and says, everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now. That's when Christ turned the water into wine, at his mother's behest. He said, it's not my time yet, I don't have to do that. Oh, Mom asked, I guess I better do it, feeling a little maybe guilty or, wanted to please Mom. But he went ahead and did it. But you are all ready to serve up the good wine that you couldn't have served up at 30. Why didn't you serve it up earlier? Because you were too caught up in the expectations, the demands, what your mothers and fathers told you, what society told you, what the church told you, and now you have freedom to choose, to decide. And I was a Jesuit, and one of the big things in Jesuit life was discernment. Reading the movements in yourself, consolations, desolations, and out of that coming to a clearer vision of what was the truth. And that's what aging does for us. It gets that wine maturing, and there's a lot of sediment. It's a little messy also. But you can pour off the good wine, and you will not have tasted anything like that if you drank it too early, because you couldn't have drunk it early. It wasn't ready. One of my long-term patients, someone I still see on occasion, now in his 80s, very caught in his culture, very caught in his family, very caught in being what he thought he should be, and did a great job, successful, contributed in major ways to society. Comes into me one day and he says, Bob, he calls me Bob now. Bob. I said, yeah. He said, all these years I've been building a fortress for myself, only to discover I've actually created a prison. How many of us have incarcerated ourselves? Folks, it's time for jailbreak. Aging is the chance to break out of that jail that you built for yourself in collaboration with and at the behest of those who taught you what you should do and what they expected of you. Finally, you can be yourself. But this aging thing is scary. Henry Nouwen put it well in his book, Aging, the Fulfillment of Life. How many are familiar with that book? I see one hand, two hands, three hands, just a few hands. Worth reading. One of my friends who's been in gerontology for years said, he walked up to Henry Nouwen and he said, Henry, this is years, it was written in 1976. Henry, that's the best book on aging I've ever read. And Henry, who was 44 at the time, said, well, good, I don't know anything about it. At 44, he was probably right. But Henry had an insightfulness about him that he penetrated into the essences and truths of life. And what he said about aging, what makes it so hard? First, and Sister Mary Rose has written about the aging process, and that the longevity now. These things become more and more real because of our longevity. My father died at 64. My mother died at 72. I've outlived both of them now. How much longer do I have, given some of the issues I've had, including a total prostatectomy about 2 years ago? Cancer. Something's going to get me. I want to live in the meantime very well, fully, life to the full. So first we get marginalized, right? Elderly, sir, would you like, it's amazing me, you don't get marginalized like on the subway. They say, sir, would you like a seat? And I've seen people my age say, I don't need a seat. I say, thank you. I'll take it. I need other people. I need other people to look out for me, to care for me. I need to look out for and care for other people. But rejection by society, Henry said, is one of the first insults about aging. Ageism. That's the term, ageism, developed by Robert Butler and used, very beautifully by Mary Rose. Ageism. There's racism, ethnicism, and ageism. We're lumped into a category and put out, Les poubelles, we're garbage, les poubelles. French, I love to say it, Voulez-vous sortir les poubelles, chérie? Dear, would you like to take the garbage out? Well, we're seen sometimes as that, but we're not. We're that mature wine. The mature wine. Also, rejections by others, not just by society at large, but by others. And sometimes even rejections that, in some sense, are not explicitly rejections, but when people die, we feel like they've left us. Why'd you die on me? Why'd you leave me? Oy. And we suffer those. One of the results of aging. Enough already. Enough already. And then we reject ourselves. Because I'm no longer who I was. What good am I? I remember when I gave up my Harvard email last June. Robert_Weber at hms.harvard.edu. And then all of a sudden, and I felt good about giving it up, but then it hit me one day. I feel some of this too. I didn't want to give it up. There's no way I can keep it? Oh, sorry, sir, unless you're an emeritus, you can't keep it. Oh, okay. So now I'm Bob at drbobweber.com. Yeah, not HMS. The little ways we get insulted, The little ways we get insulted. So think about the ways you've experienced the effects of aging in relation to society. Have you experienced rejection by society, rejection by others, rejection by yourself? And the people you work with, ask yourself, are they experiencing things like this? I'm looking at our time here. Supposed to end at 1:15, I think, right? And then, pardon? I didn't catch it. I do. I'm going to use them. Thank you. And your name is? Astrid. Thank you. Okay. But just look at this. When you go to people you're working with, whom you might be coming to, maybe who are, still a part of the parish, but, they may not envision their faith in the same way you do, or their practice the same way you do. And I love to make the distinction when I work with people, because I invite them to talk about that dimension of their lives, if they want to. Where religion and spirituality have played an issue, and how it's contributed to their mental health issues. So I ask people, are you religious? Religion being, do I have beliefs? practices, and am I part of a community or a parish? Those three things constitute the essence of religion, right? What about spiritual? Are you spiritual? Well, yes, but I practice mindfulness, or I'm more into Buddhism. Okay. No, I'm into centering prayer. What is the spiritual part? And are you both religious and spiritual? Well, I'm spiritual, but not religious. Like you're saying, this church is alienated me, or I feel apart from it. And then come back, and then it becomes religious and spiritual again. But sometimes people need to go that route and take the divide. And there's a new expression in the States, Harvey Cox came up with, SBNR, spiritual but not religious. SBNR. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but think to yourself, am I SBNR? And neither religious nor spiritual, and a new term has come out for that. A woman who's done research has written it, called nuns. Now, what was the old expression? Nun meant woman who was a member of a religious community, right? But now there's NONES. I'm nothing. I don't even want to get near anything religious or spiritual. And then, for educated people, I'm psycho-spiritual. Or I'm humanistic existential. But you know what? God speaks to us in ways that we can understand. And somebody who's humanistic existential hears God's voice the same as we do. Not in the same lingo or language that we do, but God's speaking. God's present in everybody. Even sometimes you go, in that person? Couldn't be. But is. So listen. But even there, if God's present, sometimes God isn't, being listened to. God isn't being listened to. So what I'm going to do is just end on this note for now, and then we're going to take this up in more detail and depth at the second part. But we're going to come back to some things too. Spirituality on page 4, and we're going to again detail this in the afternoon. It's being awake. It's getting rid of illusions. Spirituality is never being at the mercy of any event, thing, or person. It's discovering the diamond mine inside yourself. And religion is intended to lead you there. And sometimes it works very well, and sometimes it doesn't work so well. But that's conception of spirituality that Carol and I used in our book, which we took from Anthony de Mello, who was an Indian Jesuit priest. Quite an amazing, I wish I'd met him. He died in his 50s in 1987, I believe. But I met him through his writings. And there's actually at Fordham University, there's a de Mello Center. You can go on and access his materials. The de Mello Center, Fordham University. So these are the questions we're going to come back to when we do our small group and then large group discussion. What have I learned through the many years of my lived experience? How has my wisdom grown as I have gotten older? Wisdom. How have I become a better human being, living more fully, freely, and wisely as a result? And what have I let go of such that I am more my true self? Those are 4 questions we're going to come back to, so you can start to cogitate, meditate, contemplate those questions during our time, our break, and the networking and stuff. That's what I'm going to invite you to do in small groups first at your tables. And I'm just wondering, so we can get, what I might ask is I see sort of 4 rows or columns, whatever you want to call it. Maybe the one row can take up one question. You all can go back to all of them. But, and then when we get to the large group discussion, each sector could kind of present its thinking about and its reflections upon each question. So like this group here, the 3 tables, 1, 2, 3 tables there, could pay attention to what have I learned through the many years of my lived experience. Then 1, 2, 3, 4 here, starting here and up. How has my wisdom grown as I've gotten older? And then 1, 2, 3 here, these three. How have I become a better human being, living more fully and freely and wisely as a result? And then 1, 2, 3, 4 on the right side here, to my right, what have I let go of such that I am more my true self?